What's with split screen? Split screen is a way of displaying a local multiplayer game. When two or more players are sharing the same screen, games that restrict certain aspects, such as first-person shooters or racing games, have to display both players' perspectives beside each other. This isn't usually the case for a game that can show everyone at once, such as a fighting game. The first game to use split screen was a 1975 Atari arcade game called Steeplechase, which was a very simple horse racing game. It's open for debate whether or not this is truly split screen or just many horses running on different colored grass, especially since the game displays all horses on screen even in single player mode. Some games split the screen left and right, some split it up and down. Some give you the option of where the aspects will display. Split screen can be an annoyance because in order to make room on one screen, each player's perspective must be cropped and or downscaled. To make matters worse, playing with 3 players on split screen sometimes grants one player a larger perspective, which is a potential advantage in a competitive game. After all, if 2 players are having trouble seeing but one can see just fine, it isn't always fair. Games like Nintendo Land always give everyone the same size perspective so it remains fair, even if this sometimes involves leaving some negative space on screen. The existence of split screen is somewhat inevitable, and there's a notorious consequence as a result of it. Cheating. The act of looking at another player's display to learn about their whereabouts or really any information. The action has earned many names, but to avoid eventual ambiguity, I'm going to be referring to it as screen looking. The information attained from screen looking can be unfair, as one player may be trying to attempt an ambush or other secret scheme against the opposing player. Some would argue that split screen is a fair means of play, as it gives both players the freedom of screen looking, so both players are still on equal playing fields. However, it still does drastically change the playstyles, as ambushes and other secret attacks become virtually unviable. Virtually. Even if the players mutually agree not to screen look, it's very easy to do it just by accident, especially in a game that has overlaid information. There are a few ways to fight split screen. Many homemade methods involve trying to isolate parts of the screen to different players. Some have been known to stick obstructions, such as pieces of cardboard, to the monitor. Others have tried putting one player under a blanket to block one side to them, but this is essentially the same idea. It's quite evident that these methods are imperfect for a collection of reasons. Objects placed to block vision can easily fall, and someone under a blanket might move just a little bit, on purpose or not, at very important moments of the game. There's gotta be a better way to do it. Technology has given us a few ways more recently. Obviously, games that run on different monitors are exempt from needing any fixing, such as games running through online or on LAN. The Nintendo Wii U features a secondary monitor on the gamepad, which allows for one player to use the TV screen with a separate controller, and another to use the gamepad controller and screen to play. This can be seen in games like Sonic Boom and Splatoon. Additionally, some 3D TVs allow both screens to be displayed at once, with each perspective being viewable only through different glasses. This opens the door for many possibilities in local multiplayer games, but obviously suffers from affordability issues. One game decided that instead of trying to fight against the nature of screen looking, that they should embrace it. The game's screen sheet uses split screen even in online multiplayer. The reason for this is that the game, as the name implies, is centered around the idea of looking at other players' fields of view. Each character in-game is invisible, meaning players have to rely on looking at each other's perspectives to learn where they are and what their plan is. It's interesting what this does to players psychologically, as ambushing and other stealthy maneuvers are nearly impossible. When combat starts among players, they're usually left scrambling to find their invisible opponents, and just shoot everywhere around where they think they could be. It also opens the doors for advanced techniques though, as players can mislead the opponent. By being restricted to player B's point of view for information on their whereabouts, player A is at the mercy of player B. Sometimes this is how players act in other split-screen games, though it likely wasn't the intention of the designers. So what's the point? Split screen is the inevitable result of local multiplayer. Some games are fairer than others about exactly how the display is divided. It's becoming less common in games thanks to online multiplayer, the Wii U's extra gamepad screen, and 3D TVs. It can be too liberal, however, in allowing cheating among players via screen looking. Many people have tried to use makeshift home methods to solve these, but all of them have their problems.
You know what? This isn't gonna work. We have to have 2 screens.
Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do. As long as both players are screen looking, however, the game remains relatively balanced. Although it's not true, or not always true, to the main game, it fosters interesting new strategies from the players due to the introduced psychological implications of knowing where the other player's eyes are. And that's what's with split screen. Hey, thanks so much for watching this episode of What's With Games. If you liked it, consider subscribing, liking it, and sharing it with your friends. You can also follow What's With Games on Facebook and Twitter. To check out more episodes of What's With Games, click those links right there. If you have an idea for an episode, leave a comment telling what you think.